question I get asked more often than not, usually by skaters, BMX riders, scooter riders, and just the general public. A manual or wheelie on anything is usually defined as removing points of contact with the ground. So if you're on a bike and you have two wheels on the ground, you pop your wheel up, go on one wheel, and if you're on a skateboard, you're going from 4 wheels to 2. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you what the closest thing to doing a wheelie on a unicycle is, what we consider a manual, as well as potentially a nose manual, and other ways that you can do wheelies and manuals in unicycling. So how the hell do you remove another point of contact with the ground when it's a unicycle? It's just one wheel. Well, we don't really remove contact points with the ground, but what we do is remove contact points with the pedals. Sure, by our definition, this isn't a manual or a wheelie, but hear me out, guys. The idea and the concept is still the same, though. These tricks are used in the exact same way that you would see them done in a skate park on a BMX, or a skateboard, or a scooter. So they're really no different. So the first trick is what I think is really close to a manual, but I'll let you guys decide. This trick is the 1-foot coast. This trick is probably the easiest coast of them all, and this is where you're putting one foot on the frame and one leg dangling off the unicycle as kind of like a counterweight or a counterbalance. This trick is way more simple and easy when you're doing it on the flat ground, but it is a way different story when you start to hop up and do them onto manual pads and onto ledges. Now, there were like earlier versions of manuals in unicycling, like 1-foot riding and 1-foot wheel walk and maybe even the stand-up wheel walk. But in my opinion, none of these tricks come close to the comparison of the 1-foot coast versus manualing in other sports. Which is why when people do ask, I tell people that this is the wheelie or the manual in unicycling. But is it really? So what is closer to a manual then, or a wheelie? Well, maybe it's this next trick. This next trick is the 2-foot coast. This trick is the same idea as the 1-foot coast, but instead of having your one leg out as a counterbalance, you're putting both feet on top of the forks of the frame, and this makes it way harder to do. And it's honestly pretty rare to see in unicycling, especially urban unicycling and flatland. Without that other leg out as a counterbalance, you have to kind of rely on this sort of like air humping motion that a lot of BMX riders do when they're in manuals. Personally, I think it looks kind of silly, and for me it's a little uncomfortable to like balance in. That may be the reason why people don't do it. Now I'm going to save my final verdict for the end of this video as to what a wheelie is in unicycling, but in the meantime, what is the nose manual or nose wheelie equivalent in unicycling? Now, these type of like nose manual tricks are my personal favorite tricks, as you may have found out in one of my earlier videos of my top 5 favorite tricks. But before I get into that, I just want to throw a quick shout out to you guys for being super supportive so far and really encouraging me to keep making these videos and giving back to the super awesome community. So I'm super stoked about that. And I would really appreciate it if you guys could consider leaving a like. It really helps me out as a content creator, and it also helps the YouTube algorithm to push these videos out to more people to discover more about unicycling, and also to get other people who are starting unicycling more into the sport. Thanks, guys. Now, for the nose manual. In my opinion, in unicycling, the closest thing to a nose manual is the Scuff Coast. This trick requires you to jump up, put one foot on the frame, and hold the seat out in front of you while you're standing. So it's kind of like a 1-foot coast, except you're standing up and holding the seat with your hands. The bails on this trick are super similar to the kind of bails you'd see from BMX riders or scooter riders doing nose manuals, like the kind where you just get slingshotted and fall forward. Not to mention the difficulty and the look of this trick is probably the closest thing to nose manuals in other sports. Sadly, this one is really uncommon, and I wish there were more people doing it in street. I only know so many people who do this trick, and I wish more people did this. So if you can do this trick on flat, just take it to the street already. Come on, guys. And if you're a unicyclist, you know there's a decent amount of clout behind this trick. But there are even harder and more cloudy versions of this trick. You can do variations like the Scuff Coast, where you're jumping onto the outside of the frame and balancing on the outside doing a Scuff Coast. You got fakie Scuff Coasts, which are basically Scuff Coasts but riding backwards. And these actually end up being easier than the forward moving Scuff Coasts. I don't know why that is. And you also got the 2-foot Scuff Coast, aka the ugliest coast I can even think of. I tried this one for so long and it looks gross and I hated it. I did not like it. And there's a few more to list, but I'm gonna do that in a later video because there's a lot of coasts in unicycling. So, coming back to the question, what is a manual or a wheelie in unicycling? I hate to burst your bubble, but there's no definite answer, which is why I'm gonna ask you guys, what do you guys think the closest thing to a wheelie is on a unicycle? And if somebody were to ask you personally, whether you're a unicyclist or not, what a wheelie would be on a unicycle, would you use one of these tricks in the video, or would you say it's impossible? What would you guys respond with if this question was asked after watching this video? Please comment down below with your answers. I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with and if you agree or disagree with me. I'm personally going to keep calling these tricks manual tricks or manualing tricks. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.